I'll just say overall, I thought that the Xbox Bethesda Showcase was insane this year. But there were two specific things I wanted to talk about. The theme of one of them is today's video, and that's Diablo 4, known as the Return to Darkness. I am very, very excited for this game. It's going to launch day and date on Xbox and PS5 as well as PC, where I will be playing it, and I suspect many others as well. Got a pretty large following of us battle.net people who still like playing Bethesda games on PC. But I want to talk a little bit about today because during the Xbox Showcase, which I guess is probably the best place to start now that I think about it, I'll just run this in the background while I talk for a few moments. We got a lot more information. Now, they have a website that I had there on the other screen, and we'll go back to that in a moment. I'll click through a few of the things, look at some of the other art, but they have now given the final class. The Necromancer is making their triumphant return, which is cool. I really have a soft spot in my heart for Necromancers because that was one of the classes I played the most during the original Diablo 2 in college. I love that class. It was so cool, so different, commanding an army of the dead and all the spells and hexes and everything. Very, very cool. And Corpse Explosion, which, I mean, come on, right? Diablo 4 seems like it's shaping up to be pretty epic, and I talked a lot in my Diablo Immortal review, at least the first, 15 or so hours that I've spent with the title, talking a lot about, I felt it was like a test to see what things would stick between the transition from Diablo 3 to Diablo 4, and I'm happy to say a lot of the stuff that we wanted to see is actually, in fact, going to make it into Diablo 4. So we are getting an open world where you can freely walk around with lots of different environments to explore and to see. It reminds me the way they explained it, instead of the procedurally generated Diablo experiences we've seen before, instead it seems like it's going to be a much larger, more static universe that has very distinct dungeons to explore, very distinct areas to go check out and to walk around in, and to challenge yourself with. There's world bosses. That's something that is a very cool concept. I know Lost Ark really seemed to push the envelope a lot with the action RPG world, where you're going to have larger than life bosses around the world that is going to require you and a bunch of other people to jump into and attack. Now, that does mean it's going to be a persistent online universe. You're going to have to log in to play, and I know that was a point of contention for Diablo 3. I think a lot of us got over it once the servers actually started to kind of maintain themselves. I know that Diablo 2, definitely, a lot of people played offline. I know I did. And that's fine. Diablo 3 made the transition. Diablo Immortal continues that. Unfortunately, Diablo 4 will be online. So you're going to be at the whim of potential server disconnects and everybody and their mother logging in on day one, which unfortunately is going to happen. But I feel like once it pans out, you're going to log in. There's going to be other adventurers running around in the universe with you. You can team up with them. You can quickly join them. You can fight together. You could synergize your different classes and your different skills in order to take down some of the tougher bosses. That naturally just extends into the PvP element and into larger than life battles and larger scaled battles, which sounds really, really cool. That was something that really piqued my interest in the little bit of open world that I saw with other players in Diablo Immortal, where I was running around and all of a sudden you'd see this icon on your map and it was like, oh, this is a thing I need to fight. And before you know it, everybody's over there fighting it. Like right here, what you're looking at, we're looking at this giant boss battle where, okay, it's this giant battlefield and there's a couple necromancers here, there's a barbarian, there's a wizard, like everybody's coming together to fight. And I love that you could have people just come from all different angles and all different areas to engage with some of these enemies, and I think that's really fun. And I'm curious to see, how much some of this has, like, obviously he's holding some kind of really cool chest that we all want, of course. Looks like he maybe is teleporting away, like are there treasure goblins that are larger than life that need to be tackled? I don't know. But this really just was incredibly exciting to me. as I thought about this persistent open world where other players are at. They even mentioned that there would be instance stuff, so probably borrowing a lot of what we've seen from World of Warcraft, where towns will, eventually morph into other things as you help save people. Villages that have been desecrated may become safe havens where new people will come and new quest hubs will appear. So you're going to get the feeling that you're actually making a difference in the world. And I think that's the one thing that was always lacking for me in the previous Diablo titles was no matter how many demons of hell you fought back, you logged out, logged in, and you just had to start all over again. And I like fighting. Don't get me wrong. This isn't like I don't want to not fight things, but I remember specifically the Diablo 2 expansion, and you're in that barbarian highlands, and you're basically the barbarians are fighting on the front line, and you fight your way through and kind of defeat everything. It felt like epic. It felt like we were actually taking back the land. You're freeing prisoners, and they were like working their way up the map with you. It was cool. Until you quit and came back in, and then you found that everything had reset. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. They said there's going to be a specific endgame area or specific endgame portals or rifts or anything. That's probably the more traditional Diablo that we know now, where you're going to have the challenge rifts and the challenge systems. That's probably the more dynamic world outside of the core experience. But it seems like they've really taken heart to developing a very specific world in which you are going to navigate through the story. And I'm really excited for that. This game looks amazing. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Unfortunately, I have to wait a little bit longer, 2023. Over on the official Diablo 4 website, you can see a lot of stuff there. There's a pre-register link. I think some people may have seen this tweeted the other day, but because everyone kind of thought we'd be getting like this little cheeky demo or whatever like today. Obviously not the case, but if you haven't already pre-registered, it takes 10 seconds. Just log in on your battle.net account and log in there, pre-register so that when they launch open and closed alphas, which they will, they've done this for pretty much every Diablo up to date, you'll at least be able to check it out, see how it runs on your system, see what console or what your preferences on what you want to play, which is really, really cool. You're going to be able to select from 5 different characters that are fully customizable. And the video, I didn't really talk moment by moment to the video I just showed you, but very, very detailed system of changing appearance and type and just a lot of stuff to really make your character your own. You're going to have a barbarian who, of course, the unparalleled strength, the frontliner, dual wielding or single-handed, lots of rage and just carnage and fun violence. The farthest I ever got in Diablo 2 was a defensive barbarian, where I used a lot of defensive shouts, a really big shield, and I was able to tank through most of hell with my girlfriend at the time, not my wife. We had so much fun playing it, and barbarian was definitely a front line for me on that. Druid actually is one that I'm very interested in because I remember like the bear form before, never really seen. It kind of seemed kind of janky, honestly. I mean, graphics were dated, thinking back to like what Diablo 2 brought to the table. A Druid, definitely more of like a hybrid caster and melee. Obviously, with the way that this game is shaping up, I'm sure we're going to get some really cool attacks and effects, transforming in and out of a bear, casting other abilities, not just kind of locked into one skill tree. So that actually seems like something maybe worth investigating again, because honestly, I feel like in the past, a lot of druids were stuck as a bear or werewolf, and that was kind of it. Necromancer, obviously the new one they showed today, being able to, summon dead enemies, blow up enemies, rivers of blood, curses, bone-type attacks. Always a favorite. And I know that the Necromancer was kind of the last official character through Diablo 3, through the expansion, the Rise of the Necromancer pack, which I bought and, of course, played Diablo again because I love the Necromancer so much. This is definitely one I'll be considering. A rogue is interesting. Rogue, agile warrior specializing in range or close quarters. Obviously you have those Amazon routes where you have like the bow and arrow. The fact that it's up close quarters combat, interesting to see, particularly as with the emphasis on poison and shadow magic. Rogues have always been very bursty in a lot of these games, and Diablo has been more about sustainment than about burst. I'll be curious to see how they make this character fun and distinct from a two-handed barbarian. And then lastly, they are talking about the Sorcerer, which, of course, another great favorite, summoning lightning and ice and fire attacks. You saw some really cool fire snakes and rivers of fire and like volcanoes and meteors and that sort of thing. Really exciting for that. A little sad we're not seeing a paladin. A paladin or the crusader role has really grown on me, and I have a feeling we will get that at some point with the DLC. I'm sure there'll be DLC in the future where they add more classes, but immediately I felt, wow, you're really missing a dedicated kind of party leader or a role, which was what the Crusader slash Paladin always traditionally filled. But I think this is a very solid lineup of characters. I think through the massive customization that they kind of teased a little bit today, and I'm not talking about the way your character looks, I'm talking about the way your character performs in terms of just the sheer amount of dungeons and open world areas to explore and treasures and stuff to find. I have no doubt you're going to be able to find a character that you love to make your own, whether you want to specialize two-handed, one-handed, ranged, in between, hybrid. I have a feeling you're going to find a character that you are interested in. And then they got some really interesting screenshots here, as we talked about a little bit before, with the stronghold section here. You can see, heroic adventurers can clear out strongholds and then kind of turn them into towns. So here's what it looks like before, and then after you clear everything out, now it's happy and safe. Obviously, there's going to be a giant PvP area where they said you could, be like the most targeted and focus on other players. Naturally, this will evolve into like clan battles and more structured PvP combat. I'm very excited in that. PvP up until this point has just been kind of running around wildly outside the town, trying to challenge people to duels. This feels like it's got a lot more emphasis put on it. I know Diablo 3 was supposed to have a lot of PvP. It was taken out. I don't really know if they fixed what they didn't like about Diablo 3, or they just decided, we're going to throw it back in here. But either way, PvP is definitely something I'm interested in. And then you could see a lot of the developer updates and stuff and kind of what's been going on. They've been pretty good about updating things. I haven't talked about it too much. I think this gameplay video was the longest deep dive I had seen in a while on really just laying out all the systems in a really nice, clean way to kind of explore and go through with you guys. So I thought it was only fitting, especially after this awesome press conference, to spend some time talking about one of my absolute favorite franchises in Diablo. So game will be coming out sometime 2023. If it is to be believed, it's supposed to be 1 year from the time that the Game Pass, from 1 year from today, because that's what they said. All these games you'll see within the year. I don't know if that's true or not, but it'll be ready when it's ready. Obviously, as we get closer to alphas and betas and more technical reviews, I will definitely be back with more videos, absolutely gameplay videos and reviews when the day comes. And I can't wait to get out there with you guys and have some fun. So wanted to give a shout out to Diablo 4. I spent a little deep dive talking about some of the systems and my thoughts on the mechanics. And that's it for today. I hope you guys found this content interesting, informative. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.